I need you to get out your story structure map we did on Tuesday, I believe. We looked at it a little bit Wednesday. We're going to look at it again today. So take a minute. Should be in your notebook. Should be in your reading notebook. And then you're going to want to pull up on your reading, on your iPad, the story. So you're going to go to reading textbook link. You're going to click on contents, lesson 17, and then you're going to click on the story title. I'll give you a second to get set up here. So we already filled a lot of this in. We're going to make a couple of additions to it here. Most of it you should already have written down. Okay, setting is where the story takes place. We talked about where it took place, and we had mentioned Peter's garage. We talked about the school being a location for a slight amount of time when they're handing out the award. We talked about Angela's house. So we are at Angela's house when she fast forwards into time. Okay, so you had a couple of different locations in that story. But how about the when? We haven't talked about when this story takes place. Because setting can be where and when. You can tell me when. Does it give us a specific year? No, and that's okay. It doesn't have to. Do you think it happened way, way in the past? Like a long, long time ago? No. When, Jackson? Maybe. I'm not looking for a month either. I'm not really looking for something specific. Okay? Because it doesn't give us a specific day and time. We do know it was December though, don't we? For this one. Because at some point it tells us it was December. He brings the rose from June. So you could say December. It's a good start. What else, John?
It's like they're in the future because who's going to think of a time machine and built it right now?
Right. So you might say future, right? Okay, you might say December. You might say future. Okay. Sean?
20th century?
What's that?
20th century?
Probably not the 20th century.
The 20th century was the 1900s.
So I would say future. You might say a December in the future, right? If you wanted to be somewhat specific. Okay, for when it takes place. Okay, as far as setting goes. Characters, we said Angela and Peter. For our characters, conflict. We had talked about Angela had the problem of she wanted to write that winning essay. We had some events. She discovers the time machine and she discovers that it works. Decides to use the time machine to steal or take the winning story, which then allows her to solve her problem of winning that story, right? You should be in the reading text here. I'm going to get to that text myself. Get out of this. Let me find Schoology down here.
So we just go to the story?
Yep, you can leave that out. We're going to go to the story here. You might want to jot some more notes down as we talk about something. I want you to look at the very first page of the story. There it is. Which, when I say first page, I mean this page. Okay? I want you to read that first paragraph to yourself. Just read it quietly to yourself.
Wait,
Shh, quietly to yourself, first paragraph.
the one that ends with after.
Okay, when you're done, you're going to fast forward like Peter's machine to the last page of the story. Okay, I want you to read the last paragraph. Take a minute, read the last paragraph. notice about the first couple of sentences and the last couple of sentences of this story, Josh?
They're both the same.
That's the same, right? This story started the way it ended, or ended the way it started, however you want to look at it, right? Why do you think that is? Kind of creates this loop, right? It kind of goes in a circle. We started here and we ended back there. Why? Nick?
Because time machine.
Because why?
The time machine.
Okay.
Like they go fast forward, and then by the time the story's over, it's back.
Okay, because of the time machine. What else? Juliana?
Because Angela wrote the story.
She wrote the story. It was a winning story. Do you think she wrote the story before he really had the time machine working?
Yeah.
Like it's showing you, could this story happen today?
Yeah.
Because it was a story, right, that came back to itself with something, right?
Because eventually in the world there's going to be a time.
Possibly. Okay, so it kind of circles back to where it started, right? Angela wrote a story about her going through this process. Wyatt, what do you think?
Because she wrote the story and it starts from the beginning of the story and she wrote it through.
Okay.
And then at the end it started at the beginning of the story.
Because this is the story that she wrote, right? It says, when he could talk again, he asked me to read my story to him, and I began. In movies, geniuses have frizzy white hair, right? And in the beginning, our story starts that way, doesn't it? That's how she starts to describe or get us to understand who Peter was. Okay? John, other thoughts?
I think Angela's reading it to Peter again.
Okay. Reading it to him again.
Okay.
It kind of happens, and then she's telling this story. Good. Sean?
Maybe is the story that we're reading the story he was telling when he wrote for the contest.
Right. The story we were reading was possibly the story she wrote for the contest,
That
right?
was a long story.
So the story she wrote for the contest was the story that we were reading. So that's why it kind of starts and ends the way it does. Okay? Kind of an interesting little concept. I was wanting to make sure you noticed that the beginning and the ending were both the same. Okay? Let's go back to our story structure page here. Okay, we're going to look at that. You have a lot of the parts necessary and the information necessary to write a summary. What's a summary? What's a summary? Adam? Yeah, taking a story and kind of shortening it down to a paragraph to just give some important information, right? Kind of finding main ideas and details, which is exactly what we did here. Okay, so if we were to use this information to write a summary, how would we start that summary? I'm going to go over this way. How could we start a summary using the information in our story structure for this story? How could we start it? Nick?
I don't know if this is right or not, but like maybe like in the story they were in Peter's garage and he built a machine.
Okay, what should we maybe mention just before that, though? Yes, we need to put that in there. You're right. Go ahead, Nick.
Like their names and
We should. We should mention names. Maya, what were your thoughts?
I was going to say like
All their names. What do we have listed first on our story map? Josh?
setting,
We do. Setting is way up here, right?
conflict.
Characters, the conflict. I was looking more at that next part. Well, we have the conflict listed. What was the conflict?
Wait, is the conflict like the problem?
Yes, it is. June?
Angela wanted to write a winning story and different.
Right, so couldn't we start our summary that way? Angela wanted to write a winning story. She knows she has a friend named Peter that's doing what?
Making a time machine.
Supposedly making this time machine, right? So, Angela wants...
Where do we write?
You can write it on the... Well, you guys are in your notebook.
Yeah.
So at the bottom, we have room on the back side. Angela wants to win a writing contest. She has a friend named Peter, right? Building, or we might say supposedly, because at the beginning she doesn't know, right?
No.
Supposedly
Oh, Peter knows.
building a time machine. Okay, 2 sentences we have so far. Give you a second, write that down. And then we'll see what we can add.
Brandon.
Miss Mom,
Yes.
can they click off the calories is good?
It'll take a lot to take them off.
Nick is good.
All right, what else should we say? What is some of our next events we wrote down? She has a problem. You should know, you wrote it down. She has this friend that's building this time machine, supposedly. Wyatt?
He goes forward in time to.
What does she have to do before that, though? Because this is speculating her friend is building the machine. What does she do first? So, sequencing, order of events. Right, this is a rumor. Until what happens? Until what does Angela do to discover that it's not a rumor? What does she do? Juliana?
She sneaks over and takes a peek at the time machine.
Yeah, Angela sneaks over.
She was going home for my.
Yeah, I don't know that we would say sneak. Well, because she's done it before.
She's trying to cut over. Trying to cut over to.
Cuts through the yard, right? Cuts
Yeah.
through Peter's yard.
Trying to get to her house.
And she peeks into the garage, right?
Yeah. Her curiosity got the better of her.
Exactly. That's what I do. Peeks into the garage and sees what?
Time machine.
Sees.
No, she sees she thinks it's a shower thingy.
She does. She just sees that. But we find out that it's a time machine, right?
Yeah.
Sees
She sees
time machine. This should be. Keep changing it because it doesn't look right. Because EA is peak on a mountain.
and sees a what?
There we go. Sees a time machine. Or she discovers that it's the time machine from Peter, right?
Yeah. Wait, in this story.
So you might
Wait.
say the would be a better
Wait,
article.
What year was it wrote? And then
I don't know. We don't know.
Would it was he like the first ever person to create a time machine?
I don't know. Probably not.
If there's a time
Okay,
machine.
what happens after she discovers the time machine? Riker?
Peter, says hi. When he speaks up, and then Peter says, like, how do you do? Okay.
So Peter lets her use. I didn't hear everything he said. Peter lets her use the time machine, right? To read the winning story. In the end, what happens?
He wins.
Angela wins.
Yeah, but she stole from herself.
Yep, Angela wins the contest. I'm running out of room, so here we are.
Use
But-
it on the other whiteboard.
I think we've got plenty here, right? Gives you kind of a quick little gist or understanding of what happens in the story. That's what a summary should do. I know what happens in the beginning, the middle, and the end. Okay, putting those events in order, sequencing them in the correct order. So take a minute, write that down, and then I'll show you what your assignment is for today.
Miss Long,
Yes.
technically Peter should get some of the credit because he actually built it and let her use it. But technically he should get some of the credit.
He should get credit for what?
Making it.
Well, he does get credit for making it.
Credit for letting her use it, not making it.
Well, if you're not done writing, you can pause. I'm going to slide over here. We're going to talk about your assignment. Those of you here in class can finish writing that in just a minute. Let me show you quick here. So when you finish, you can start your assignment. So in lesson 17, you should have a story structure worksheet here to work on. Now it's 2 new stories you're reading and writing and answering questions about the characters and the plot. What's plot? I haven't used that word yet. Let's talk about plot. It's one you should know. What is it, Nick?
Like what's happening.
Yeah, what's happening? Beginning, middle, end, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the details of the story, the conflict. Okay, the climax, when something gets to the top point and then things start to become resolved. Okay, we got the rising action, the falling action, all that stuff. That's your plot. That's what's happening. Okay? So you're going to answer those questions on that worksheet for reading today. Hold on to your story structure and your summary. Those will come in handy when we review next week. We will have a test over this particular story on Tuesday.